Today we hear about probably the biggest social screw-up recorded in Scriptures. And James and John get a little greedy for worldly glory and worldly power, so Jesus chastises them, rightly so. However, I would like to think, or I'd like to point out, when Jesus asked them if they could drink his cup, I'd like to think that they probably knew he meant the cup of pain. And they said, yes, we can. And as Dizzy Dean, the baseball player, once said, it ain't bragging if you can do it. And the apostles certainly did it. James was the first martyr to die in Jerusalem by the sword. And John was the only one who was not martyred, but they tried to martyr him, and he certainly suffered plenty of pain. James and John, the brothers, were called Boanerges by Jesus, which meant sons of thunder. And it seems he called them that because of their zeal, because of their enthusiasm for the kingdom that he was bringing. And this zeal is probably why James was the first to be martyred. He simply wouldn't shut up about it. He wouldn't even tone it down, and he got himself martyred as the first one. The martyrdom of James gives us an example of what it means to be Christian, or at least one aspect of Christianity. Because James suffered for his faith, and as Isaiah says in our first reading today, the Lord shall justify many by his suffering. Well, Jesus is the Lord, he is the master, and we are his servants. And we as Christians, to be a Christian is to be a little Christ. So if it's good enough for Jesus, it's good enough for us. Jesus preached the gospel, we're to preach the gospel. Jesus suffered, we are to suffer. And suffering has value. James has had value just as an example to us and to the other apostles to show that he could go through that. But we don't have to go looking for martyrdom as Catholics or as Christians. Martyrdom comes to us. It comes to us in 1,000 little ways. All our little sufferings, our aches, our pains, our disappointments, our heartbreaks, our upsets, family problems, problems in the church, and eventually our own death. These are all martyrdoms that we can experience, and we will experience. We have a choice, I think, of 3 different ways to respond to these large and small martyrdoms that come into our life. Number 1, we can try to be stoic about it. We can try to suck it up and push it down until it explodes someday. Try to ignore it. Number 2, we can rage against God, against the injustice that this particular thing is happening to us. Or number 3, we can accept it to the point that it's inevitable. We can accept it and we can use it. We can dedicate it. We can join it to the suffering of Jesus on the cross, and we can participate with him in his salvific work to save the world. There is power in suffering when it's combined with prayer, with an intentional joining of it to Jesus' suffering. We can participate in his work of saving the world. I personally know of 2 people in our parish who had dramatic conversions back to the faith. And each of those came after another one in our parish had died a painful death. And these 2 who died intentionally dedicated their suffering and death for the conversion of someone in our parish. And within a week of their death, this next person came into the church. And within a week of the death of the second one, this other one came into the church. There is power in suffering, both in major suffering and smaller suffering, such as we experience during the day. There's a third component to this, We can take on some minor suffering, a small penance, such as used to be actually quite popular in the church. Things like fasting and abstinence, little things like that. We can intentionally do these small things to supercharge our prayer life, to give our prayer focus and power. I think this works probably because by doing this, especially if we're doing this to pray for someone else, we are practicing love. We're practicing agape love, which is the highest form of love, and is self-sacrificial love, such as the love Jesus has for us. He did that for us. And when we do some minor thing for Him, whether it's intentional in a penance or unintentional in one of these random martyrdoms that come to us, when we do that like Him, that gives it power. And I think Jesus recognizes that and is more likely to grant our prayer. James was an example of a major martyrdom. We have the small martyrdoms, as I said, the thousands of things that come to us in our life. And we have the penances that we can voluntarily take on. The problem with suffering is that it tends to make us want to look inward. All we think about is our suffering, whether it's mental, psychological, or physical. It's all we think about is our problems. It makes us turn inward. So the challenge then is when we experience these things is to try to turn it around and turn it outward and to make something good happen. I do not mean that we should intentionally put up with pain. If we have mental, psychological, or emotional or physical suffering, by all means we are to go to the doctor and try to get it relieved when possible. I'm not saying that we shouldn't. However, a certain amount of suffering in this life is inevitable, and when it is, we need to take advantage of it. We all need to be prepared to drink the cup, as James did.